If we were to take Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, 1937, take that box office, type it in to a free internet inflation calculator. Now, depending on how we accumulate the number, because a lot of Snow White's numbers are with re-releases, but let's just say we shave some of that off. We can argue that Snow White has made between $6 to $7 billion in the box office in 1937 money. If anyone tells you this is not the greatest animated film of all time, sure, we have our favorites, we have many of them here. But on the weekends, we do cartoons, we do animation. Snow White is still in my top 5. But I have a film buff criteria. We're not going to get into that. We're just going to talk about what this film is and what it means. Let's go.
Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take 1.
Action!
So recently, I was hanging out with a friend of mine who is someone I immensely look up to. Just a overall weapon that's been involved with pop culture from inception. Like, this dude was born into pop culture. He's been around it. He writes about it. He's known for it. And he's pretty much like the guy in a lot of circles. He's humble, but then again, so am I. Anyway, we were talking this past week because we met up at a local Philly bar. That one, I'm not going to name which bar, but it's thrown me out 3 times now, I believe. They've still the same owner. They changed locations and managers, and I think I'm safe when I show up there now. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is as culturally important to the American cinema experience as King Kong. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, in comparison to King Kong, are equal. The difference is one has people and one has drawn people by people. One's animation, one's live action. The wonders of King Kong, I think the people can grasp that a little bit better, right? We can kind of imagine King Kong spinning people's heads and making them run for the hills and not understanding how things could look so real on screen. But when we get to Snow White, we have a different barrier for animation, like a barrier to perception, to how we view it, to how we look at it. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, even right now, is a technological feat unlike anything we've ever seen. Previously, I hailed Fantasia. Don Bluth, a rogue animator that spun out of the Walt Disney Company. He made a movie called Anastasia. I label that as the greatest of all time. I've labeled Fantasia, like there's Anastasia and there's Fantasia. Fantasia, in my eyes, is Disney's greatest effort, shortly followed by Fantasia 2000, its sequel / follow-up. But, that was decades later. But I'd like to put those two films together. For anime, we have Akira. Akira is just constantly on the list. But when it comes to full artistry, presentation, and story, for anime, I would go for Grave of the Fireflies over Akira. But then we have Snow White. We have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. A story so rich, so pure, so streamlined, so original that even when I was recently watching it, I was telling myself about the huntsman. I was saying, don't kill her. Come to your senses. And when he does, I'm so relieved. The way how Snow White is drawn and animated, it's of a European style. I love it in this, that when she's, young and poor in the beginning, she's got clogs on. And I don't know what Disney Plus has done with the restoration, if it's 4K or not, but it looks beautiful on Disney Plus. But you immediately fall in love with this girl. Like you do as soon as you're watching it. And sometimes as an audience member, you have to put yourself in the place of the people at the time that saw this and loved it. It's easy to fall in love with Snow White. It's easy to hate the witch. It's easy to feel for the huntsman. And it's easy to laugh with the dwarves. And what this film has done through time, it's extraordinary because it's forever important. And it's one of the crown jewels of American culture. So with all this hubbub that we have about this live action remake coming out, we have to understand this 2025 live action version is only going to magnify how perfect of a film this is. And to have a multi-billion-dollar entity spawning from this, and when you understand the risk that the Disney Co. took and the salvation during a depression, during a time of no jobs, where people flocked to Disney to draw and create, and he was there and he was hiring, and they were making this movie, and they got bank loans because when the bankers saw what they were doing, they said, you will print bags of money. This is a money machine. Here is your check to make your feature. Now, I don't know how over budget this thing went, but I would imagine immensely over budget. And everything that spawned from this, it's still there. We can make arguments about the current Disney regime, and I have in both directions. But Snow White's impact is still there when we go to the Disney parks. The idea of the Disney franchise, which has become the Disney princess. The Disney princess begins with this girl, begins with Snow White. I love the animation. The animation still holds up to this day. And that's one of the cool things when we drill into animation. Can I say animation again? When we drill into cartoons, I just feel like sometimes things are a cartoon and sometimes it's animation. But when we drill into Snow White, technically, it holds up. Cartoons resonate like this because when they please the eye, they do forever. Now, will we get a run of CG animations like Madagascar, so on and so forth, that no longer become pleasing to the eye? I don't know. I think these films overall have a frame rate, they have a brightness, they have a speed that generations can enjoy, which shows you, like, the template that Snow White built is that we can build it all through animation. Why do you think about it, AKAPAD, why do so many major film studios develop giant animation departments? Because they know if you can hook them with a cartoon, you hook them for life. And Snow White is the original template for that from 1937, forever to be copied and replicated. AKAPADers, I think we're going to do a little bit more. I've been taking some notes about this. I don't know if I'm going to go into the realm of YouTube. I don't know yet, but if I do anything on YouTube, I'll do my best to make those audio available. But always follow me on YouTube at AKAPAD. I think we're going to be doing some Snow White books coming up. We're going to be doing a little bit of a run of Snow White overall, because like this new release, this new film got me. It just got me thinking about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and therein lies its success. So, alright, AKAPADers, it's Animation Saturday. Snow White, let's go.
Okay, that's a wrap.